So I'm watching Mike and Mike this morning on ESPN2, ESPN News, whatever friggin' ESPN channel it's on. And they're talking about the proposal to add a 4-point line in the NBA. Similar to how the 3-point line came to be. Every shot used to be just a 2-point shot in the NBA until the advent of the 3-point line, obviously. Other than free throws. Free throws are always 1 point. But anyway, this made me think of a number of things, and the one main thing that I think of every time I hear a rule change like this being proposed, or just some facet change to the fundamentals of a game being proposed, is this necessary? And is there a just reason why it's necessary? Now, as far as the 4-point line goes, that would be exciting. I mean, there would be a lot more exciting comebacks, a lot more teams that are down by 15, 20 points going into the fourth quarter, coming back miraculously and winning. But with that aside, I say there's already plenty of miraculous comebacks. You just saw one with the Houston Rockets and LA Clippers here, where they were down 13. Houston was down 13 points going into the fourth quarter against the LA Clippers, and they came back and won the game. And it's like, you didn't need a 4-point line to have a miraculous comeback like that happen. Anyways, what I'm getting at is when I hear a rule change like this proposed, and a number of rule changes, some of which I'll touch on a few others here, I say it is just not necessary, because the reason why it's being changed is simply just to add excitement to a game that is frankly already exciting to watch. I mean, what really will it change? And on top of what it will change is it puts an asterisk, whether how bold you want to make that asterisk or not. Like, let's just hypothetically say in the NBA they change the rules and there's a 4-point line starting next season. And someone like Steph Curry of the Warriors, his points per game go up, 6 points per game. And he goes down as the highest point scoring player in the NBA history. Like, people will be like, yeah, he was the best player to ever play the game. He was the best shooter, the best whatever. But he played in an era where the 4-point line existed. Dr. J, Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, all those guys, they didn't play at the 4-point line. And they still put up tons of points. And it gets to a point where you see rule changes like this, it starts bastardizing all-time records. It starts bastardizing the legacy of the league, and like where you hold someone in the modern era ranked against someone against the past. Not that you need that in sports, but let's face it, everyone compares LeBron and Jordan, and everyone is going to compare them that's a fan of the game of basketball. Stuff like that, stuff like changing a 4-point line, adding a 4-point line, puts a caveat in a comparison like that. The NFL is so dead set on, a lot of the owners, the league itself, and the fans. So many people want to do away with the extra point attempt after a touchdown. Now, I myself know that my team, the Philadelphia Eagles, would greatly benefit from that. They have a college mastermind 2-point conversion genius in Chip Kelly that is just wringing his hands at the notion of the extra point being done away with. And I'll tell you right now, do I think point production would go up for my Philadelphia Eagles if they had just 2-point attempts after every single touchdown? Absolutely, I think it would. Do I think it would be the difference in winning a game or two potentially every year? Absolutely, I do. With Chip Kelly a coach and with what he's assembling right now in this offense, I absolutely do think it will benefit my team. But why is the league changing it? Because the extra point is automatic, it's boring, it's a given 99.9% of the time, spare one of the few times that the holder bobbles the snap, or the kick gets blocked, or just any of number of things. But it's a 99% efficiency ratio. does that mean it's wrong? Does that mean it's bad? Does that mean it has to be changed? Because I'll tell you right now, that one little portion of the game that is so predictable, so automatic, so definite, doesn't change my interest in the game at all. If one little facet of the game is that predictable and automatic, it is not going to make me lose or gain interest in the game at all, one bit. And I just see so many rules like this, like even add an instant replay to Major League Baseball this year. And just adding instant replay to any league for that matter got added to basketball a couple years ago. Basically, the NFL was the one league to really go all out with it, and other leagues have adopted, including the NHL now as well. So all 4 major sports here in America have some sort of instant replay in some capacity or another. That even taints potential things, because while I'm a fan of instant replay, I'm also a fan of a time when stuff like that wasn't so sophisticated. When you look at something like the Immaculate Reception, you say to yourself, what would have happened if that play could have been reviewed and it revealed that the ball hit the turf first before it was I think it was Lynn Swann had the ball in his hands. That could have changed the course of history for the Steelers and the Steel Curtain era, the Terry Bradshaw era Steelers. What if there was instant replay back then? And what I'm getting at is, even if something like the Immaculate Reception, the ball hit the turf before possession was maintained, and the refs just made a bad call on it, bad calls and human error were part of the game of every single game. Every single professional sports event, a sporting game here in America. Human error is always a part, and was always a part in deciding the game. And now that you have an instant replay, it's basically having technology dictate what a potential outcome could be. Because, let's face it, outcomes of entire games have been decided by an instant replay. By a ref that, maybe didn't have a good angle, couldn't tell because, the ball was caught, but the back was to the ref, and you couldn't tell if he lost possession. The ref had to make a human judgment, and it ended up being the wrong decision, but human judgment is part of the game. Now it's technology deciding the outcomes of the games. Now, and don't get me wrong, there's some rules that I do understand, like should change, like baseball, in Major League Baseball, for instance, having half of the teams in the league have a designated hitter and the half of the teams don't. That's just ridiculous. Stuff like that, if something like that changed, it's not necessarily changing the integrity of the game. It's changing things to make it fair that every team plays by the same set of rules. Because right now, Major League Baseball, every team doesn't play by the same set of rules. The American League has a designated hitter. The National League doesn't. The National League, even through the college ranks and everything else, is the only division in baseball, the only segregation of baseball teams that have no designated hitter. And stuff like that I can understand being changed, but I don't know. It's just getting to the point now where I hear things like talking about a 4-point line in the NBA and stuff like that. I'm like, the game isn't that broken that you need to change it that much. The extra point isn't that bad of a thing. Like, okay, I get it. It's automatic. It's boring. It's pretty much just chalk up the point before the kicker even kicks the ball. I get all that. But you know what? That's one little sliver of a fraction of an entire football game. If just that one little sliver of a fraction is that automatic and that boring, I'll still tune in to watch. I don't care if there's 20 extra points in every game. I would still tune in to watch. And frankly, more and more people keep tuning in, despite the fact that that extra point is still part of the game to this day. Anyways, what I'm getting at is, do we like the way this is going? Because the obvious trend is to add more integration of a review type process, technology. Face it, it's only a matter of time before there's like a microchip in the ball and there's some sort of GPS that tracks how far a player got with a ball so that you don't have to go with the judgment of the referee to tell you where the ball was spotted before the the player's knee went down. Now, there could be microchips in the guy's knee pads or something too that signify when the player first touched his body to the ground or some shit like that. Like, that is really where this stuff is trending to. As ridiculous and futuristic as that sounds, stuff like that isn't really that much of a hard thing to expect to happen. Anyways, I'm just someone that grew up with sports, loves sports, and I personally, I see it kind of decaying with these rule changes and not necessarily evolving. Granted, some of these rule changes are nice and good and they do make the game more honest. Like I said, as much as I'm against instant replay, there is an aspect to it that helps alleviate a fear of corruption, because you never know what's going on in a referee's mind, or if they got together, or if they're willing to swing a game in favor of the bettors that are going on one way or another. Instant replay helps alleviate that, obviously, if referees are going to tank a game on purpose by making bad calls. But there's still ways of doing it. You can still throw penalties out the ass, and you don't need to review the majority of penalties anyway. But I don't know, just someone who's a fan of sports, and I hear things like the notion of a 4-point line being talked about. I'm just like, no. Let's just stop. The game of basketball is exciting, and it's just like it's like there's like a fear of like we got to keep doing things to make it more exciting. We have to. We can't just let everything stay the same. It's like YouTube. YouTube has to constantly keep changing things when, frankly, so many versions of YouTube weren't broken or needed to be fixed. So it just goes to show you that, stuff like YouTube is just true to life, and sports is a perfect example of that. Stop tweaking things that don't need to be tweaked. Stop coming up with fantasy scenarios like it is an actual proposal that is going to be considered to vote on in the NBA between the owners, that the inclusion of a 4-point line. That's ridiculous. That's just absolutely ridiculous. It's unnecessary. It's unwarranted. And the only reason they would be doing it is not fundamental reasons to make the game better, but just to make it more interesting and help increase ratings, help put butts in seats. And again, just goes to show you the almighty dollar is probably what's going to win out. Anyway, enjoy your sports, and let's go Eagles. And as always, fuck them Dallas Cowboys. Have a good day, everyone.